Hello and welcome to the A4Q Global Testing Summit. I am delighted to welcome Amanda Logue. Amanda is an experienced senior test lead at the Atlantic Lottery Corporation and director of marketing of the Canadian Software Testing Board, the CSTB. In today's presentation, Amanda shares her most important exploratory testing do's and don'ts with you. And we're really looking forward to your presentation. And for you at home, feel free to ask any kind of questions. We're really happy to answer. And I would say the stage is yours, Amanda, and have a lot of fun with the presentation.
Okay. Thank you for having me. And like was said, I'm here to chat about exploratory testing, and my name's Amanda Logue. A little bit of an introduction, so I'll just go over who I am, although I was already kind of introduced, and what is exploratory testing, why we perform exploratory testing, and how we do it. So my name's Amanda Logue. I'm a senior test lead at Atlantic Lotto, which is our local lottery in Canada for the province I'm in. There's 4 provinces that are within that same lottery. I am the chair for the TBOC working group for the ISTQB, and I am the director of marketing for the Canadian Software Testing Board. And I'm also the co-author of the Gambling Industry Tester Syllabus as well, which I've chatted about a few times on a few of these other conferences. So some of you may have seen me from those. So first, we only have 30 minutes, so we'll just jump right in. So what is exploratory testing? So according to the ISTQB in their glossary definition, exploratory testing is an approach to testing whereby the testers dynamically design and execute tests based on their own knowledge, exploration of the test item or the product, whatever it is they're testing, and the results of the previous test. And then according to James Bach, who is an exploratory testing guru, exploratory testing software is a powerful and fun approach to testing. In some, I will put big quotes, some situations, it can be a magnitude more productive than scripted testing. I haven't found a tester yet who didn't at least unconsciously perform exploratory testing at one time or another. The plainest definition of exploratory testing is test design and test execution at the same time. Exploratory testing is performed by experienced people who know how the product or the system is supposed to work. There is times when you can use an unexperienced person, and this would be it just if it's somebody who's good with UX and design. They don't necessarily need to know how the system is supposed to work and the requirements and the nitty-gritty, but they know how things should flow from a user perspective and to make things user-friendly. So you don't necessarily need to have product knowledge in those cases. An objective of exploratory testing is to follow a process that allows us to find as many defects as possible by focusing on the high-risk test areas. And then next, we'll chat about why to perform exploratory testing. Exploratory testing is about exploring and finding out about the software, what it does, what it doesn't do, what works, and what doesn't work. Exploratory testing is mainly conducted by skilled people, which we've already discussed, and who have great experience of working in the same types of applications, and they're able to find defects just by going through the product. Exploratory testing reduces the risk of major defects in the product and increases the confidence of all stakeholders. And then how to perform exploratory testing. So the first step to performing exploratory testing is to plan. A lot of people, when you talk about exploratory testing, they think, oh, you just go out, you just play with the system, and there's no structure to it. But if you're going to do exploratory testing correctly, you need to plan. And I really like this picture here because I'm older. So when I first started testing and we were doing exploratory testing, we legit had sticky notes on a board that had all the different areas of the product, and you would just go up and you would pick that one sticky note, and then you would create your test charter and you would go from that. So anyway, this image really reminded me of those days, so it kind of fit perfectly. So the product owners and the test managers, they'll typically have a joint planning session, and they'll identify all the areas that need to be tested. And you focus your areas on like the high risk areas. If you've tested with the same team before, if you can know areas that were really had a lot of defects in them previously, then you look back into those areas and you can concentrate on those. You make sure you do your negative and your positive testing. A lot of times people will just focus on positive testing, but really should get into that negative testing as well. And that will really help build your confidence in your system and can help you find those defects earlier. So for the exploratory test process, there's plan, which we've just kind of talked about. There's execute, debrief, and review. So during your plan, you have the high-level meeting between the product owners and the test managers, but then you can also start creating your test charters as well. And during your execute phase, you time box your test session. So it's really important that you only test for about 2 hours is what you should give yourself for each session. And then at the end, you debrief your findings, and then you review those results with your test manager. We'll dive into that a little more here as well. So exploratory test charter is used in test design, in your test execution, your results, and learning for each test session. When you're going to create your charter, you put your charter name, you put your name, you put your date, you put the system that you test and the component, which environment you're in. If you're doing something web-based, make sure you put your device that you're on in your browser and all of those types of things. Put your start time and your end time, and then what areas you're covering, and if you used any input files or if you needed any execution data or anything like that. Have that all planned out in this charter, and it will just make things smoother, and it will jog your memory as you go through. And then as you're doing your execution, you use your test charter for a step-by-step journal of your testing. So you would put your task ID and what was actually being tested, and then your results and how it was tested. So put in your steps and your results. So then you have all of that there, and it's all written in your document. Back when I first started this, we were handwriting these things. Now everybody has them typed and they're all online, and whatever, you're using a Word document or Excel. Different companies have different ways of doing that, and different places that they store them on their SharePoints or wherever. There isn't one specific test charter that you need to use every time. Follow your company standards. They're going to adapt that to make that work with what you need and what works for them. So. And then during your test execution, your test charter will be used to track your defects. So you just put in your defects, your timestamp, your description, and then the steps to reproduce. When we're doing that, we put those in these documents instead. Like, we don't go out and put them right in the defect management tool for two reasons. One, in the next step, you're going to see, we're going to review that with your manager. But also, we don't go through doing all of that because we time box these sessions and you have 2 hours. If you are going out and you're going to log your defect and you're going to do all of those things, you're going to take time away from your 2-hour session and you're going to lose focus on where you're at. So it's write it down so you don't forget that these things happened, but keep going so that you don't lose focus on where you're at and you don't lose your train of thought on where you're going. So that's what the reason that we don't step away and go log things right away. And then the next step is we're going to review. So during your exploratory test execution, the tester will clearly define the results and their defects that were observed during the test session, which is what we've seen in the last couple of slides. You fill in all that information, and then you review your results with your test manager. After that review session, the tester will go in and they'll log the defects that the test manager says that they need to go log. Obviously, you're going to check and make sure that there isn't a defect that's similar to it already in the system. And you're going to do those normal things that you would typically do before you would log a defect. And you will go back then, and that's when you can grab your screenshots and all those details that you need to support your defect. You can grab those then. And then another step is the test manager. Based on those results, they can decide if that area was fully tested. It may not have been, so that charter might go back in. It might be another session that needs to get done again. Or based on those results, they can find little pockets of areas that you might need to have another test charter for. So then you go and you'll do another exploratory test session for those little pockets of areas. And it's usually your test manager will come up with those based on the results from that review session and based on the findings that the product owner has shown. So just to recap a little bit, I did speak very fastly, so we did go through this really fast. But you plan to create an exploratory test charter for each test session. You execute, you run a test as planned. But if you get strange results, dig deeper into those areas. Ensure that your test execution steps allow you to find out the objective of your test session. If it worked, if it didn't work, you debrief. Clearly define your results, and your defects need to be collected during the session. So that's where you write everything in that test charter document. You have all your information there, and then you review that with your test manager, and any learnings that you find, you can then log your defects if needed. The test manager will also give new areas that need to have exploratory testing. So some of the do's that you do during testing, exploratory testing, is make sure you have somebody who knows the area and that they are very knowledgeable. You time box your session and make sure you always use a test charter and capture all those details, but don't log your defects and don't get bogged down by those other things. Stay focused in that area that you're supposed to be testing, and make sure you review all those results with your test manager. And then from there, if there's further sessions that need to be done, they will be. And some of the don'ts is where I've seen some things fail a few times is we've had sessions where a tester will just get lost and they'll bunny trail, and then they'll just spend a full day testing this one area, and they really shouldn't. What happens when you spend too much time is you don't get through all those high priority areas. And so that's why you really want to time box your session. And also we've seen cases where we've had like inexperienced people come in and they don't know how the system works. So then things just slide through the cracks because they don't realize that the system shouldn't work like that. And then the defects just are missed in that case as well. And that was it. Do we have any questions? I went a little faster than I think I spoke faster.
Yeah, thank you first for your presentation. I think we don't have any questions now, but I would encourage the audience just to text you maybe over LinkedIn or write you an email. And also if you have any questions later on, you can always drop us a comment and we can also answer it after the session. So yes, thank you very much for your presentation, and we are happy to hear from you. And we wish you a really nice evening. Enjoy your day and see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.